thank you all for being here tonight. You know, it's humbling to stand in front of this room. It's also a little scary because I'm 56 years old and I never know if I'm going to need glasses or not, and I'm somewhere in between, so bear with me a little bit. But it is humbling when you stand here in front of this room and you start to think about, why is it that you're the one that's being recognized tonight? You know, and the short answer is, I'm not really sure. But we all know that nights like tonight are rarely about the person that's up here on stage. It is really a celebration of the collective efforts of all the people in this room and all of your work and all your contributions throughout the year. And that's what we're here to celebrate tonight. So thank you for that. And most importantly, we're here to celebrate the scholars. Many of them who are here tonight. It's those who are here to celebrate and why we're here tonight to talk about the great work of the Spencer Foundation. You know, I was thinking about tonight and getting ready for it and what I was going to talk to this group about. I started reaching out to a bunch of the different scholars. And every time I talked to one of these kids, I was like more and more impressed. And you start to hear their stories, right? I wanted to talk to them about it because I want a reminder of like reconnect to what the purpose of Spencer is and why are we all here tonight. And the more you talk to them, the more impressed you are. You realize how smart they are, how inspirational they are, how accomplished they are. And it was great, but then I started feeling really bad about myself by comparison. Right? I was like, God, when I was their age, I'm like, they're like, you know, half and actuarial majors doing math game theory, and I pledged a frat. Like I would have had no chance to compete against any of these kids if I was looking for a job coming out of school. I wish I was kidding, but no, that's actually it's really pretty true. But when you think about Spencer and the impact that it has, I mean, that's what it's about. It's real, it's personal. You got to get to know these kids, and then you'll realize why we are here tonight. And you think about some of the kids in the stories, and Chara Hines, and she's at Morgan State in Baltimore, and she chose to switch schools to pursue a career in insurance. She's an actuarial science major. But in order for her to do that, she had to give up her athletic scholarship, right? And she credits the scholarship she received from Spencer in making that choice possible, right? Or Julian Solomon, who's here tonight. If you haven't met him, meet him. He's a great kid. I really enjoyed my conversation with him. And we talked about the networking and mentorship programs and how impactful they are and how meaningful they are and how it creates opportunities that they just wouldn't have otherwise. And Peter Espinel. Peter's here with us tonight, St. John's kid. And as I was talking to him, he was talking about how meaningful the scholarship is because it's what allows him to pursue this program. But in addition to that, he's an actuarial science major. He's got a 3.9 GPA, and he has 2 part-time jobs, right? And the financial support's great. But what he talked about the most was the networking, the connectivity, meeting different people in the industry, some senior leaders, but frankly, a lot of junior people in the industry too, and what that impact is and how much he appreciates that because he wouldn't have had that otherwise. Right? And then lastly but not least, Brady King, a student athlete at St. Joe's. And it was the same thing, you hear the same themes over and over again. It's the combination of financial support, but also the connectivity to the people in this industry. And so for him, the impact on what that did, which ultimately led to internships, but also led to a job offer when he graduates this May. So these things are all possible because of the financial support and contributions for the people in this room. Right? It makes a difference. And that's the power of Spencer. It's real. Right? And that's why we're here tonight. Look, our job doesn't end when we write the checks tonight. Right? It's not just about the financial support. It's about the time spent mentoring, networking, and talking to these kids that makes the biggest impact. And all of us in this room have an obligation to pay it forward and invest in the next generation and the future of this industry. Look, we all know none of us get here alone, right? And I think back to my own start in the industry and my first job out of college. I was at Fireman's Fund Insurance in Tarrytown up in Westchester. And there was a branch manager there. The guy was incredible. His name was John Lyons. And John was incredibly generous with his time, right? He answered questions, pushed me, gave me opportunities I wasn't ready for. But most importantly, he took the time to teach me about why. Why does it matter? Why do we do what we do? How do you connect the dots on things, right? Or Mike Calabrese, right? Many of you in the room might know Mike. Mike taught me the power of critical thinking. Now, I hated the way Mike taught me that. I mean, for those who know Mike, he was pretty tough. Right? I would spend hours trying to convince him how smart I was by writing everything I knew in these things, and I'd show up waiting for that great feedback that I was looking for, and I'd just get it back on my desk in like a big red pen with an exclamation point that just said, "So what?" Right? What are you trying to tell me? Why does it matter? Be concise, right? But the important part was people that took the time to invest in me. They shaped my career. They made a difference in my life, right? And all of us in this room somewhere have their John Lyons or Calabrese, right? That pivotal moment or mentor that made a big difference in their life or their career. So I'm asking all of you tonight to be generous with your money. But more importantly, I'm going to challenge you all to be generous with your time. Because it's the combination of the two that makes Spencer so effective. Because it's one thing to bring people into the industry, but it's another thing to keep them here, right? And I know at Lockton, one of the foundations of this is the Jack Lockton Memorial Scholarship. And to date, we've given out over $1 million in grants to over 200 recipients. Sure, I'll take that. Thank you. Right? But as an industry, we have to build that pipeline of talent, right? As Janelle said, we have a PR problem, right? There are not kids lining up to join this industry, right? Half of them are trying to go into private equity or investment banking, sports marketing. The number 2 response for college graduates is they want to be influencers when they graduate, right? Every parent's nightmare, $300,000 so they can keep posting things on Instagram, right? If there is anyone here from the hard market, I think you guys are doing great. Please don't take it out on Spencer. Just you can direct all your comments toward me. All right. That's Ryan, R-Y-A-N, if you weren't sure. But so look, as we all know, we're at that inflection point, right? In the industry, there's going to be so many people that retire over the next 5 years. And when they leave, they're going to take decades of institutional knowledge with them, right? So as we bring the next generation into the industry, we also have to recognize that their experience is going to be vastly different than the one many of us in this room have had. And that's where Spencer makes the difference, right? They partner with universities across the country, preparing the next generation, raising awareness, funding the possibility, and getting students excited about a career in this industry. Right. When I was thinking about my conversations with the students, and I couldn't help but notice how different all their backgrounds are, where they come from, what they do, what their interests are. And it's just great because we're going to need it all, right? We're going to need underwriters with analytical skills. We're going to need actuaries with math and data science backgrounds, brokers who can build trust, operators who can run complex businesses, finance and M&A experts, and we're going to need claims professionals with empathy and judgment. And AI isn't going to give us that. We need you, right? So I'd like to take a couple minutes, or 1 minute, to turn my comments to the students in the room. And I'd like to share a little advice that I wish that I had a little sooner in my career. At least I learned some of these lessons a little sooner than I did. As again, you guys are much smarter than I was, so maybe it'll come a little quicker for you. But as you start entering the workforce, I would just encourage you to all think about it in this way. Like, now is the time to invest in yourself, right? Don't start thinking about this as a job, or can I get a job, right? This is about building the foundation of your career, right? Accumulate experience, right? Seek out new opportunities and challenges constantly. But I'm not talking about changing jobs every 12 to 24 months, okay? Right? I'm just talking about there are no bad opportunities. Right? Every client, every project, every internal initiative has the ability to teach you something if you let it. Right? Keep your vision really broad. Careers are not linear, at least not the fun ones, right? And when you're learning now may shape the opportunities you can't even imagine 10 years from now. And what you're going to be doing 10 years from now probably doesn't even exist today, right? If you just take my personal story, there is no line you could draw from a career path that takes a kid from Manpack, New York, driving a champagne-colored Plymouth Acclaim for Fireman's Fund, doing excess property surveys in the South Bronx to president of Lockton. Like, it just doesn't exist. I couldn't recreate it if I tried. Right? Make it your job to learn. Be curious. Ask questions. It's up to you to own your own growth, though. That's your responsibility, right? And focus on relationships. The same thing you're doing today. Get people that want to invest in you. Find people, network, mentor, have conversations. Get out of your bubble. Don't text. Don't Slack. Just go talk to people. Right? And don't get distracted by chasing the next title. You're going to have to reinvent yourself 5, 6, 7 times throughout your course of your career. You will change trajectories many, many times. Just keep learning, right? The rest is going to take care of itself. So turn my attention back to the room. And this is where I need your help. As I said, some of us are partners, some of us are competitors, but not tonight. Tonight, we're all on the same team. So tonight, I'm asking you to support these students. I'm going to ask you to turn to your QR codes again. I'm sure a couple of you might have missed the opportunity a couple of minutes ago. It's up here again for you if you want it on the big screen. And I'm asking you to support these students by making a donation. Now, there is no amount too big. I mean, we could take the small ones. I'm just saying we have the ability to take the big ones as well. Right? And Lockton's going to do its part as well. So tonight, I'm proud to announce that Lockton is donating $1 million to the Spencer Foundation over the next 5 years. Thank you. That's great. I appreciate it. Thank you. But that, again, that was very nice, but this is not about us, because every organization in here is doing their part too. They're all making contributions in terms of their funds and the contributions of their time. And many of you people in this room donate your time to that mentorship and network that I was talking about, which is just as critical as anything else. And so I appreciate that, but I do want to thank all the organizations that Janelle went through on this board, because their contributions are really what makes this organization work. And the part that's kind of the coolest for me as you think about tonight and why we're here and what we're doing, because it's the most exciting piece to me is that one day I truly believe that the Chara Hines, the Julian Solomons, the Peter Espinels, and the Brady Kings of the world are going to be standing up here sharing their stories, passing on the legacy that's Spencer. And that's what kind of impact tonight can have. So thank you all for your time, thank you all for your generosity, and thank you all for supporting Spencer.